Okay, thank you, Kendra. Yes, thank you, Council, for attending. It's a kind of a wintry night, and I'm pleased with the number we have. It's very good. Wednesday, January 25th meeting. We're have some items on the agenda. It looks like we hope we can keep it that way in conversation, and we'll try to get you out in reasonably good time before the weather temperatures drop down. We're pleased to have some in our delegation. I'm also pleased to have my neighbor here this evening. Daryl, good to see you, and staff as well. Members of the tonight's meeting is a hybrid meeting, and that means that we can. There will be people viewing us online, and we've had the choice of either seeing it and participating in this meeting from our homes or at the Horseshoe, and I'm glad to see us at the Horseshoe. Before we begin, I'll give a land acknowledgement. We begin this gathering by acknowledging that the lands upon which we meet is the traditional territory of First Nations people who have a long-standing relationship with the land, water, and region of Southwest Middlesex. We convey our respect to our Indigenous neighbors and thank them for their contributions to our culture, community, our past, and the partnerships that we'll have in the future. Members of the public are invited to participate in this meeting electronically or by contacting the clerk to receive a registration link. Members of the public may also attend in person at the municipal office at 153 McKellar Street. This meeting will be streamed live as well as recorded and published on the Southwest Middlesex YouTube channel. Council, I'll call for disclosure of interest. Is there any member of council declaring a pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Yes, Councillor Choi. Noted.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I am disclosing conflict of interest for 8D1 2023 annual cost of living due to my spouse being a volunteer firefighter.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Amy. Any others? That'll be all. Additions to the agenda. The agenda has been circulated. There are some additions on the agenda. We will have, with the addition of the appointment of the CAO added, the CAO of Southwest Middlesex to be added, and that the bylaws follow in closed session that relate to that. That will be added. Yes, Amy, something else you'd like to add?
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Mayor, I was wondering if we could speak about bylaw number 2023-007.
Okay, that opportunity to discuss those bylaws is always present. The chair will make sure of that. Councillor Choi, thank you for indicating that. 2027. 2023-007, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I made note of that. Okay. And we have the discussion of the CAO to be added in that. Mr. Henry, anything else I've missed here? Have we got everything, I think?
No, Your Worship, you're moving along just fine.
Okay. Delegations and presentations. Yes, Kendra.
I need a mover and a seconder for the
Okay.
additions.
Move that the agenda be adopted as indicated with the additions mentioned. Councillor McGill, seconder. Councillor Choi, discussion. In favor? Carried. Delegations and presentations. Amy, have we got anyone on the link here tonight? Impact council presentation. Brenda Slater, is she with us?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, Brenda. How are you?
Good, thank you.
It's very nice to have you with us this evening. We want you to relax, make yourself at home. We're glad that you are with us virtually. And if you would like to begin your presentation, please do so. Brenda, we've scheduled about 10 minutes. Will that give you enough time?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, please.
So good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. My name is Brenda Slater, and I am your account manager with Municipal and Stakeholder Relations. I wanted to take a few minutes to congratulate all council members on their elections. I do look forward to working with you throughout 2023. Please know that I'm available anytime to help you. Municipal relations are a priority with MPAC, and certainly to myself, being your account manager with Municipal and Stakeholder Relations. We want to continue to elevate the municipal and property owner experience. And the next slide, and I believe Kendra has the slides. I can't see them on my end. I don't know if you're able to see the
Can you project those,
slides.
Kendra? Okay, yep, give us a minute to catch up.
Perfect.
Okay, and we'll see if
Thank
we
you.
can get them up there. If not, Brenda, they're in our agenda package.
Perfect. So you do have your the slides in your package there.
We
and
do, just for the sake of the gallery, we were going to see if we could get them up.
Okay, perfect.
Give you a few seconds there and make up. Girls, just give me a nod if you're going to give up there and we'll proceed, okay? I don't want to shortchange you there. I've got them. Yep. So, yeah, Brenda, we'll give you permission and you see if you can share it, okay? Are you with us, Brenda? Oh, is she?
Yes, I am.
Okay, yeah, we're going to give you the opportunity to share with us. We're going to try that and see if that works, okay?
Okay, just one moment.
Yep. Yeah.
There, are you able to see my slides now?
No, we see your image, but no slides.
Okay, so it's just saying host disabled participant screen sharing.
No, we're not sure. Well, perhaps we can continue on then.
Okay. My apologies. I will continue if that's okay.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, fair enough. So thank you very much. The first slide just shows at MPAC, we are Ontario's property experts, and our job is to assess and classify more than 5.5 million properties across Ontario with a combined value of more than $3 trillion. And thank you very much. I do see the slide. In the past year, Ontario has grown by approximately 45,000 new residential homes, and in 2022, we added more than $37 billion to Ontario's assessment rolls. Every municipality uses our assessments to make informed decisions about their community, including the distribution of property taxes. Ontario's property tax system and these assessments generate approximately $30 billion in tax revenue annually. And on the next slide, it references the 4 key players in Ontario's property assessment and taxation system. And each has a role to play and an interest in the process. The provincial government, specifically the Ministry of Finance, is responsible for setting assessment and taxation legislation as well as policies. They also determine the education property tax rate. There is also an independent body that adjudicates appeals of MPAC's assessed values, which is the Assessment Review Board, or the ARB, and they fall under the jurisdiction of the province. MPAC is an independent, not-for-profit corporation funded by all municipalities. Our role is to accurately assess and classify all properties in Ontario, and we do this in compliance with the Assessment Act and regulations set by the Government of Ontario. We are accountable to the province, municipalities, and property taxpayers of Ontario through a board of directors. Our board of directors is comprised of provincial, municipal, and taxpayer representatives appointed also by the Minister of Finance. Municipalities determine their budget requirements, they set tax rates, and collect property taxes to pay for municipal services. And finally, property owners pay the property tax bill, and they help to set market value through ongoing property purchases and sales. And the next slide speaks to maintaining Ontario's property database, which is very important. Property data is continuously updated so that municipal records are accurate when our municipal stakeholders are making important tax decisions. Maintaining Ontario's property database includes assessing new construction, additions, and renovations promptly, responding to property owner inquiries, and working to help them understand their assessment. As well, we support municipalities. We offer Municipal Connect, which is our online platform where municipal stakeholders can obtain the primary source of assessment-related information. And we work collaboratively with projects that are important to municipalities, such as digital building permits and building permit plans. We also have important statutory duties, such as handling requests for reconsiderations. The next slide speaks to the assessment update. And the reassessment that was scheduled to occur in 2020 was postponed by the province to provide stability and certainty to Ontarians and to enable municipalities to focus on responding to the challenges posed by the pandemic. As a result, property assessments continue to be based on a legislated valuation date of January 1, 2016. MPAC continues to maintain and update the assessment roll to reflect changes such as new construction and improvements to property. For new buildings or structure, MPAC determines a value as of January 1, 2016 to ensure equity when comparing to existing properties. My notes got very small. While MPAC awaits news from the provincial government about the next province-wide assessment update, January 1, 2016 continues to be Ontario's legislated valuation date. As noted earlier, this is a fixed date to which all properties are valued. Although the assessment update remains paused, our work continues to keep property data up to date. Property owners will receive an updated property assessment notice from MPAC if there are changes to their properties. In November, MPAC sent out almost 800,000 notices to reflect changes in properties. Once the province announces when the next assessment update will take place and what that valuation date will be, we will let you know, and then we can work to have meaningful conversations as we work to finalize assessed values within your community, within Southwest Middlesex. And the slide that you're seeing now speaks to resolving assessment concerns. After we assess a property or a change in assessment, as I mentioned, we mail property assessment notices to property owners, and sometimes property owners do not agree with our assessment values. A property owner may come to you and let you know that they disagree with our assessment. It is important to remember that property assessments are not taxation. If you receive an inquiry, you may want to ask the property owner if they could have sold their property on January 1, 2016 for the assessed value. Have they visited About My Property to review the information that MPAC has on file regarding their property to ensure it's correct? And as well, have they used About My Property to conduct a comparable research on assessed values of other properties within their community? If a property owner still disagrees with our assessment, they do have the option to file a request for reconsideration, and we will review it free of charge. And they also have the ability to file an appeal with the Assessment Review Board. The fastest way to start a review is to file an R4R or a reconsideration through About My Property, and it's also available on our website, mpac.ca. And the deadline to file a reconsideration and or an appeal for this year would be March 31st of 2023. The next slide, I just wanted to spend a moment to speak to the relationship between property taxes and assessment. And the most important factor is not necessarily how much the assessed value of a property has changed, but rather how the assessed value has changed relative to the average change in that class within their community. And this concept is explained in a recent toolkit, digital toolkit that was shared with all municipalities. And the next slide, in anticipation of the next province-wide reassessment, we've implemented a strategy to address misconceptions about the relationship between assessed value and taxation, including resources for municipalities that will ensure that once the announcement is made, that we're ready with the support you need. The digital toolkit is available on mpac.ca to help municipalities, including yourselves as elected officials, mitigate misinformation and provide support and resources to educate and inform property owners. As well, you can find the new video, How Your Property Taxes Are Calculated, based on the assessed value of your home. And before I wrap up on the next slide, I wanted to share a snapshot of Southwest Middlesex and your current assessment base. And this is broken down by property class, and it shows you the number of properties in each class, as well as the total assessed value and the percentage of your overall assessment base. And the next slide, I just want to say thank you very much for having me here tonight, and thank you for the virtual option. I am currently snowed in where I am. We want to stay connected. If you have not already, we do encourage you to subscribe to In Touch, which is our monthly municipal e-newsletter, and that can be done through mpac.ca. As I mentioned, we have a library of digital resources available for you as well. And please feel free to reach out to me at any time if you have questions or if you are looking for resources. And my contact information is on the last slide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brenda. That was interesting. Council, if you could stick around, I'd love to put out the invitation for questions if you'd like to entertain any. And Council, yes, please go ahead, Councillor Bink.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, to Brenda. Your local assessment base, Brenda, it says there's farm 1,390, residential 2,017. As you well know, on all farms, the house is assessed as residential. So would a farm be counted twice?
Thank you very much for the question. Actually, that is based on property code. So if you are a residential property code versus a farm property code, as opposed to our tax classes, which you were referencing.
Thank you. Thank you, Martin. Any further questions? Brenda, as you know, there's been a rather historic rise in property values, particularly since 2016. And we hear about it every day in various media forms and papers on radio and television, in the business journals. This is what is MPAC doing to address that? At some point in time, we will have to move away from our 2016 property values, and they will become more realistic. Do you have a crystal ball that you view? Will you be phasing these in, as I've heard rumors of over a period of time, the increase of property values? Could you speak to that?
Thank you for the question and the comment and the comments. At this point, we are waiting for the Ministry of Finance to announce when the next assessment update will be, and as well what our valuation date will be.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much. Keeping a council informed is part of our governance, and we appreciate the help. And you stay safe. I'm glad you're in where it's warm, and we look forward to seeing you again. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Council, delegation 2, we don't need a motion to receive that for information, do we? Delegation 2, 4B is Graham Scott. Ends council presentation by Jennifer Buchanan, I believe, Kristen. And Jennifer Buchanan, yep. And Jennifer, I'm looking for you. There you are. How are you doing?
Great, thanks. Happy to be here this evening.
Good. It's good to see you. Please make yourself at home, and we look forward to your information.
Okay. It looks like I can share my screen, so I'm going to do that. So I was asked to come this evening to present to council. I'll keep my presentation brief, but I thought I would introduce myself for those I may not have met before. So I am the engagement partner on the year-end audit. My name is Jennifer Buchanan. I am a partner at Graham Scott Ends, and I am based out of our St. Thomas office. This will be our second year completing the audit for the municipality of Southwest Middlesex, but as a firm, we work with many municipalities in the greater area. I've brought forward 2 different letters. They're regular standard letters that would come before council each year, but I thought I would take this opportunity tonight to highlight a few things in the letters as part of my presentation. And of course, happy to take any questions that council may have on our working relationship together or specific to the letters. So the first letter I have on the screen here, again, I'm not going to read it to you. It is a 9-page letter, but I'm going to highlight a few things just so you have a better understanding of what's included in it. So it is called the engagement letter, and it's effectively a contract between members of council, which is yourselves, and Graham Scott Ends about what the audit engagement is going to include. It goes through what the responsibilities of the auditor are. So all of my responsibilities about following the generally accepted accounting standards and auditing standards. It also goes through management's responsibilities. So your finance team, ensuring that the information that they provide to the auditors is accurate as best they know, and that we have their full cooperation. And it also talks about the responsibilities of those charged with governance, and that's council. So you may not think much about our relationship between the auditor and council, but there is a relationship there, and that's something that comes to light in this letter and in the next letter I'm going to present. What I mean by a relationship is that technically, when I report my opinion on the audited financial statements, my report is actually addressed to council rather than management, and it is an engagement between council and me as the auditor. It's also, I want to encourage you to come to me directly if you have any concerns about anything relating to your financial reporting, controls, etc., because that's the intended relationship, is that yes, we work closely with management on all the day-to-day, but hopefully you would also approach me with any concerns. So continuing through the engagement letter, there's an example of what the independent auditor's report is expected to look like. And then it goes through some of the things you would expect to see in a regular contract, confidentiality, communications, etc. So that's all in the engagement letter, and I would encourage any counselors who are interested in reading that letter more thoroughly. And then we do ask that the letter is signed by a member of council on behalf of the municipality of Southwest Middlesex. The second letter that I bring forward is called the audit planning letter. And this is a supplementary letter which talks more specifically about our plans for the audit. And it's our chance to highlight to you any risks that we perceive for the municipality and how we would plan to address those from an audit perspective. It also talks about any changes that are coming forward that may affect your financial statements. So we do have some of those highlighted in this letter. You can see here it's called PS 3450 financial instruments. And that's a relatively big change for most entities. It's just going to change the disclosure that you may have in your financial statements for financial instruments. What's a financial instrument, you ask? That's going to be things like investments and cash that you may have as part of your held assets. There's also changes to standards upcoming relating to asset retirement obligations as well as revenue. So again, we will look at how those standards are likely to impact the municipality. We'll work closely with Kristen and your finance team on what we may need to do as a result of these changes. It's something I wanted to share with council as well. This letter also goes through what the auditor's responsibilities are, as well as in a minute, it'll go through what those charged with governance expectations are as well. We talk about our planned scope and the timing of our audit. So just so everyone knows, we have already completed our interim audit. So that's where we do our audit planning. We test a sample of controls to make sure we can plan to rely on them. And we did that before December 31st. And then we will plan to come out next few months to come out to complete the year-end audit. We work back and forth with management on that. And then we bring forward draft financial statements to council for approval. In terms of significant risks, we do highlight these in the audit planning letter as well. And I would say that all of these risks that have been identified are very common to most municipalities. So I don't think you should be alarmed. In fact, the first two risks are common to almost all audit engagements we do. Just revenue recognition is considered an area of particular sensitivity, and then management override, which just means the ability for management to bypass controls that are in place. And so that's always going to be a risk, and that's something that we look for and include in our audit testing. Some of the other risks include valuation of estimates related to property tax vacancies, rebates, and contingencies and liabilities related to properties with environmental issues, accounts payable, existence and completeness, and then litigation and legal estimates. So that doesn't mean that we do have a concern about that, but if something like that were going on, that's something that would be of audit concern. Continuing through the letter, it's talking about how at the end of the audit, I will bring forward another letter. It's called an audit findings letter, and it will summarize outside of the audited financial statements, any issues that we had as a result of the audit, any suggestions we have for improvement, control deficiencies, and that type of thing. There are a few questions here, and I'm not going to take your answers this evening, but I just wanted to tell you that some of the questions are addressed directly to those charged with governance or council, and they relate to things like fraud. So that if anyone on council were aware of fraud occurring, or they had suspicion, or they thought there was maybe a poor control that could be improved, those are the types of things that I would love for you to report directly to me. Okay, so that's how the letter lays out. And again, I would encourage all members of council who are interested in reading that letter and then returning a signed copy to me. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I can see you guys a little bit better. So that was what I wanted to go over this evening, but I am happy to entertain any questions. And I thank you for the opportunity to come this evening and introduce myself.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. We appreciate that introduction of yourself and your proposed review criteria. And we know that you'll be working with a very capable person in Kristen. Councilor, are there any questions that you wish to ask Jennifer? Jennifer, maybe I can break the ice. We hear some scary stories about cyber attack and controls of that nature. I realize that you are not an IT company, you're a financial company, but do you ask questions in regard to our security firewalls and things of that nature?
We do ask questions. It's one of our responsibilities to obtain an understanding over the IT systems in place. And we are now regularly asking about insurance and what insurance you may have in place. We mean all kinds of insurance, but it would also include cyber attack insurance, because you're right, it is a growing issue, particularly with municipalities.
Okay, thank you. Last call, council, for questions. Seeing none, thank you, Jennifer, for the report. We appreciate it very much. Good night.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Council, we're at number 5 on the agenda, consent agenda. 5A, Southwest Middlesex minutes of December 14th, January 11th budget meeting, and January 11th council meeting. And there's also 5B, which was an addition, vouchers totaling $736,419. Are there any questions in regard to the vouchers? Yes, Don, please go ahead.
Yeah, I see that there's a bill in there for $226,000 for the app and playground equipment. Is
Yes.
that finished?
I see the tapes down and the barriers are up, and it appears so, but Kristen can answer that.
Sorry. Yes, I think the project's complete now.
Well, I just noticed that there's no retaining wall direct along by the one side or two sides.
I can follow up with Alex on that.
And then there's spaces in between the concrete or the cement blocks that's there. What's going to happen when a child misses that, steps into that hole?
Always hazards, but there's mulch and fill between those bricks. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's ironic. I find kids playing on the rock sometimes more than the apparatuses. Yeah, but we'll check into it, Don. Is there any holdback on that at all, Kristen, on that parquet?
I'd have to check in the contract, but I think
Okay.
it's probably minimal, if anything.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. And, Councilman Collum, Kristen will reply directly to you. Yep. Yes, go ahead, Councilor
Thank you,
Schultz.
Mayor Mayhew. I just have a quick question on the same thing. If it's wheelchair accessible, we need to make sure that we have an approach for the wheelchair to get in there.
Okay.
Because right now, I don't think they can.
All right, I see the blacktop is in there, and we'll ask, that's a good question, and I can also follow that up through the county investigation on that too. They have a department that monitors that type of thing. So wheelchair approach to that as well. And I think they were maybe even running out of weather sometimes to put that asphalt in and that. So we'll check that up. So Kristen, you got those 2 items then? Okay, thanks very much. Any further questions? Seeing none, can I have a motion to receive the consent agenda as circulated? Councillor Vink, seconder for that. Councillor Myers, questions? All in favor? Carried. Number 6 on your agenda, council, is the Committee of Adjustment. May I have a motion that council enter into the Committee of Adjustment at 7:34 p.m. for severance applications B1 2023 and B2 2023. Mover and a seconder, please. Councilor Deputy Mayor Schuldice, seconder, please. Councilor Choi, discussion. All in favor? Carried. We are now in Committee of Adjustment. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, item number 3 on there is recommendations that the October 26, 2022 Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes are received and approved by this committee. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Counselor McCollum, seconder. Counselor McGill, questions? All in favor? Carried. We are now into our committee of adjustment. Stephanie, welcome. It's good to see you. I hope you're in where it's nice and warm.
I am, thanks.
You bet. Stephanie, could you advise council on the purpose and effect of our first application on Falcon Bridge Drive?
I certainly can. I'm just going to share my screen with you and hopefully it goes smoothly. Can someone please confirm if they can see the map?
We can.
Oh, perfect. Good. All right, so the purpose and effect of the application is to facilitate a surplus farm dwelling severance by severing a residential parcel of land with an area of approximately 0.67 acres from an agricultural property known municipally as 5771 Falcon Bridge Road. The lands proposed to be severed contains a single detached dwelling and an accessory building. The lands proposed to be severed are serviced by a privately owned well and septic system and has an existing access off of Falcon Bridge Drive. The retained lands contain agricultural land and crop production and are vacant of any buildings or structures. And access to the agricultural lands will need to be verified or a new farm access be established through the conditions of the severance application. The provincial policy statement, County of Middlesex official plan, and the Southwest Middlesex official plan generally permit lot creation in agricultural areas to dispose of a dwelling surplus to a farming operation, subject to evaluation criteria. Staff are of the opinion that the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and in conformity with the county and Southwest Middlesex official plans, as the applicant has demonstrated farm consolidation and the proposed severed lot is considered to be of an appropriate size to accommodate both the dwelling and the services. Additionally, in examining the consent application proposal, staff have taken into consideration new dwellings, farm buildings, agricultural land loss, water supply, sanitary waste disposal, vehicular access, proximity to neighboring livestock operations, as well as lot frontage, size, and depth as per the Southwest Middlesex official plan. Notice of the application has been circulated in accordance to the requirements of the Planning Act, and staff received the following comments. The Southwest Middlesex Chief Building Official has reviewed the application and does recommend for conditions of the application that the existing septic system be verified to be located wholly on the severed parcel, and the same goes for the existing well. The Southwest Middlesex Drainage Superintendent did advise that the property is assessed to the Morrow drain and that a drainage apportionment would be required as a condition. The Ministry of Transportation did note that the subject lands are outside of the permit control area, so has no objection. The county engineer has reviewed the application and has no comments or concerns. And the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority has no concerns with the proposal as well. So it is recommended that the application be granted subject to the conditions which council will have before them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Mr. Henry, is the applicant with us this evening, or will he be speaking? Okay, so we will go past that. Kendra, has there been any oral or written submissions at all?
None received.
Okay, thank you very much. Committee discussion, any questions, council, that you would like to ask Stephanie through the chair? Seeing none, it's time to make a decision. There is a recommendation that the application for consent B1 2023 be granted subject to the 12 conditions that Stephanie has listed in your agenda package. Is there any discussion on that, or would someone entertain to move and second that the recommendation be granted? Okay, so Councilor McCollum has moved the recommendation. Seconder? Oh, I'm sorry, Mark?
Mark moved it, and I'll second it.
Okay. Yeah, that hand went up pretty quick and down pretty quick, yeah. My peripheral vision needs improving, I guess. Anyway, gentlemen, thank you very much. Council, it's been moved and seconded. Any questions? You wish to ask Stephanie? Yes, go ahead, Councilor Vink. The procedure is on your agenda, the applicant's remarks, and I have asked for oral or written submissions, and there were none. Okay. All right, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Stephanie, we have 4B in front of us regarding B2 5541 Riverside Drive. Can you apprise council of the purpose and effect of this application?
I can. And again, I'm just going to take a moment to share my screen with you. All right. So the purpose effect of this application is to establish a 25-meter long by 6-meter wide easement over the subject lands in favor of 2076 Mayfair Road, and that is for well access and maintenance purposes. The applicant has advised that the existing dwelling located at 20769 Mayfair Road is serviced by a privately owned well that is located on the abutting agricultural lands. The applicant has applied to establish a legal easement to the water well to ensure continued access and water supply for the dwelling, again located at 20769 Mayfair Road. Staff are of the opinion that the severance application is consistent with the provincial policy statement, as the establishment of an easement is a permitted use within prime agricultural areas, and as well the proposed severance will not result in the creation of a new lot. Staff are of the opinion that the proposed easement would maintain the standards of the agricultural area land use policies. And there is no boundary adjustment. This is simply a legal easement that is being created over top of the existing lands. It is noted as part of the circulation process that Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority identified that portions of the land are within the regulated area. Staff just note that the proposed easement is located outside of the regulated area, and there are no physical changes being proposed that would impact the natural hazard or natural heritage features. Notice of the application has been circulated in accordance to the requirements of the Planning Act, and staff received the following comments. Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority, as mentioned, did identify that the property contains some natural hazard features on the land and are subject to some permitting and regulations. Southwest Middlesex Chief Building Official has no objection to the application. Southwest Middlesex Drainage Superintendent has reviewed the application and has no comments. The Ministry of Transportation did note again that the subject lands are outside of their permit control area, so no objection. And the county engineer as well has no comments or concerns. So it is recommended that the application be granted, subject to the conditions which council will have before them. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Council, as you're aware, there's a process. Planners presented her report. Applicant remarks, anything, Daryl, you wish to advise council of? Or? Good, that's great. It's nice to have a compliment, Stephanie. Hey. You bet. Okay, Kendra, any oral or written submissions? And Mike, we don't need a 5-minute recess on any of this stuff for calls and that. Okay, it's not necessary. Okay, just in reference to Martin's question there, I was wondering if we needed required that. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Committee discussion. Is there any discussion, council, or any questions you'd like to ask Stephanie or Daryl through the chair? Seeing none, we'll move on to our decision. There has been a recommendation that application for consent B2 2023 submitted under section 53 of the Planning Act, which proposes an established 25-meter long by 6-meter wide easement over the subject lands in favor of 2769. Of course, it's an easement towards a well. Be granted, subject to the 5 conditions that are in your report. Any questions? Someone entertain a motion for that. Councillor Myers, Deputy Mayor Scholdice. You've had lots of opportunities to ask questions from the chair, council, so I'll call the vote. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Murray. All done. We got her. They're not all that easy, I can assure you. Eh? Anyway, future meetings are subject to change. We'll advise council of that. We'll adjourn this meeting at committee meeting at 7:45. And Stephanie, thank you very much for your services. We are back at a regular agenda. And Mike, correct me if I'm wrong here, 7 public meetings, there's none. Staff reports fire, I don't have any. Administration, I have none. HC building, I have none. And Kristen, you're doing the heavy lifting tonight. You've got 3 here, so we'll let you start with 8D1, okay?
All right. Each year, I bring to council a request for an increase to the non-union salary grid. And usually at this point, I would bring to you just basically the office and recreation staff. However, this year I'm recommending that council direct staff to adjust all of the non-union salary grids. So fire, part-time, recreation, council, and the office on January 1st by a percentage equivalent to that of the union salary grid. That is really to both keep all of staff, you know, kind of on an equal playing field, and having rates established years in advance allows better planning and less administrative work after the fact. Usually finance is trying to calculate a back pay component once we approve the rates later on in the year. So this will kind of streamline the process and give some consistency as well throughout the organization.
Council, any questions to Kristen through the chair? Go ahead, Councilor McGill.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Through the mayor to Kristen. I heard you say this includes council too. So why is there a bylaw at the end that refers to council as well, if council is already covered in this?
That's a good question. So in the bylaw, it does refer to the annual wage increase reflecting that of the union salary grid as well. But the bylaw is really also to establish the way council gets paid. So the salary component, the meeting component, what's included in the meeting component, and then honorariums and conventions and seminars as well. So it kind of covers quite a bit more. This is really just, the bylaw refers to the structure of council pay in its entirety. This just refers to what happens year over year to that structure, the percentage at which it changes.
So I noticed the amounts that were paid had changed in the bylaw. So they've just changed by this amount.
Basically,
it's recommended
yes.
here. Okay.
Yep. I'd like the clarification on that, Kristen, on what is involved in that honorarium. It's nice to have that clarified. Kristen, so one question. Would this include crossing guards as well?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, that's great. Okay. Yes, Martin, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I was wondering why the figures were not included in the report. I think the ratepayers should have a right to know what the figures are.
I can speak to that, yes. This report is to, not just for this year, this is to say that going forward, we're just going to continue to follow what is set out in the union negotiation. So I could give you the next couple of years, but I can't give you 10 years down the road.
Yes, follow up, Councillor Vink.
Yes, well, to Chris and Mayor Allen, it does say 3 years, so that's all I was asking. It says right on the report. So my question then is it exactly the same as what we agreed upon with the union?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't see why it can't be put on the report, what those 3-year figures are.
I'll just jump in. Yep, it's something that can be done in the recommendation. If you would like to state that in the recommendation, there's not a real concern with that. It's just not there, and it would just be referencing back to what we did with the union. That is correct. The treasurer is correct with this in this situation. It creates efficiency. This is what a lot of places do because it creates also parity amongst the staff. So once one group negotiates out, you're not having people all over the place and getting different increases at different times and at different values, and it creates a little bit of animosity in the workplace when those things happen. And then you're not also coming back at a year of CPI, which September over September this year was 6.9. The month before that, it was 9.9. And if you have to come back to council and say, well, we want CPI, or if the staff want CPI, well, then you're put in a bad spot because then you've negotiated something that's industry standard. It's a little bit more clear. But yeah, the values as per each year for the next 3 years certainly could be put in the recommendation.
Okay, well, we certainly can do that, and I'm sure, Martin, those numbers can be acquired for you too, but it makes for more interesting reading if those numbers are in there. I can assure that. Yeah, but I also remind council too that the agreement that we reached with union employees was done in good faith and was competitive compared to the market values of such classes, and the county assisted on us, as did Kristen and administration as well. We're very pleased with that. So everyone seems happy on this agreement, which doesn't always happen. Is there yes, Councillor McGill, please go ahead.
The union contract becomes public at some point, does it not? Has that happened yet?
Yeah, I just received it. Yeah, I just received it to review, and it'll come the next meeting by bylaw. Yeah.
Right.
So the next few years rates are 3.7, 3.3, and 3.0. But I didn't put those in because the intention was also to, after 2024, in 2025, to continue with the next negotiated rates forward as well. Like this, the report is meant to not just last 3 years, but to continue forward past this 3-year negotiation.
So typically, council, what happens is that while Kristen is giving you an outline of what will be here, this would be the practice moving forward. So we wouldn't have to keep coming back like this and negotiating all the time through. So this would be setting the practice of how we would do this moving forward. But yes, you get your 3 years now. I guess what you would do then every time the union negotiation happened, you would have the realization that that's what's happening for the next term along the way.
Yes, go ahead, Martin, please.
Mayor Allen, well, I personally don't agree with that. I know my agreement 3 years. However, obviously 4 years time, you have a different council and might be different financial situations. And I think it's been general practice that we don't vote for the next council what they have to do, and we don't tie their hands. So I think we should be only voting on these 3 years.
That's an opinion. It is advantageous to have some parity in the wage increases between union and non-union employees. There is benefits to having non-union employees, and we want to make sure that they are treated in a like manner of our union employees. It just makes a more harmonious employment force in Southwest Middlesex. other councils can change policy. Nothing is forever. Bylaws can be changed, but the comments certainly respected. Any other questions? Any defense of that? Or anything? Council recommendation's been made. Is there a mover and a second for this? Call on you. You'll move it, Mark? Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder for this? Okay, Councillor Deputy Mayor Schuldice. Okay. All right, Mike, I need a clarification from you on this. Are we tied to this forever, or future councils take a relook at this and re-examine?
We work at and serve at council's pleasure, your worship, so it can be revisited at any time. It's just something that I do recommend you get locked in. We'll do respect to Councillor Vink's comments. They are valid. However, in 4 or 3 years, even to 4 years, the union isn't going away, so you'll always have that benchmark to be able to refer back to. Those negotiations to always refer back to, and as stated, and I can't agree with Kristen more. This does create parity, and it helps staff have a base to go back to for consistency and have a reference guide that you're not having everybody all over the place. This could be quite time consuming for council if we come back and different departments for different values, et cetera.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Gill.
Well, I might be repeating what some people have said here already, but I think in 3 years' time, if we decided to go another way, we could. So this really isn't binding us, because in 3 years' time, hopefully we'll all still be here. And it'd still be the same council, because it's a 4-year term. So if we wanted to do something different at that time, instead of following the union salary grid, we could.
Exactly, from my opinion as well. Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, it's been moved by McGill, seconded by Schuldice. I'll call the question. All in favor, please raise your hand. Gotta get them up there, guys, if you're gonna vote. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. All opposed. 1, 2. Okay, and there's an abstention, or there's a conflict of interest. The motion passes. Okay. Does that sound right? Okay, good to go. All right, yes, 2 councillors, Councillor Haggett not present, and there was 1 conflict of interest. So motion did pass 4-2. Okay, Kristen, thank you. And if you could move on to request for financial assistance for a cemetery.
Absolutely. Well, my computer's being difficult. Sorry. So it appears as though there's been a change in the secretary treasurer with the Appin Cemetery Board. And for the new councillors, or for councillors that aren't aware, Southwest Middlesex has a long-standing history of supporting each of the private cemeteries to the tune of 75% of their liability insurance, as long as they provide a copy of the insurance as support. And that's really to help them, maintain the cemeteries, keep the plots in good condition, lawn maintenance, and so forth. And looking through the financials, they realized that they hadn't applied for the grant for the last couple of years. So they did apply for 2022 and will going forward. They missed 2020 and 2021. So they have written a letter to council to request that. Typically, this would be a 2023 expense. And typically each year I give an allowance of about $2,000 in the budget for any unplanned requests for donations. So this could fall under there if council so wished, but it would take up most of that additional funding for that.
Okay, so there'd be no taxation impact then if you took that from those reserves, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, council, there is a longstanding tradition of that, helping cemeteries with their insurances. And is there any questions you'd like to ask Kristen on this? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Vink.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, to Kristen. We have a lot of cemeteries here. So what is our policy then? Do they have to ask for this?
Sorry, yes, sorry. I thought, wasn't sure you were finished there. So typically, yes, I try and encourage them to apply for donations ahead of time. We put a donation request form out through social media and on our website each year for the last few years. Some of them do, some of them don't, but I typically budget for any of the ones that have in previous years. If any new ones crop up, typically we cover Appin Cemetery, Edie, Murray, and Oakland, I think are the regular ones. Any additional ones could come before council, but they have not submitted an application, nor have we given any other cemeteries one in the past.
Nothing.
Could I follow up?
Yeah.
So what happens then, Kristen, is if one that hasn't qualified or hasn't asked before, what would stop them from asking for 3 or 4 years payment then, if we're going to give this?
No, nothing would. That would have to come before council.
And they're requesting 2 years in this request here, 20 and 21. Is that correct? That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there would have to be limits to the duration of the span of time, Councillor Vink. We try to be charitable to cemeteries, but charity comes at a cost, and I don't think that 2 years is unreasonable, but 3 or 4 or 5 years would. Yeah. Okay, Kristen, and that list of cemeteries that you just said that are usually accustomed to getting this, we can't expand that into any cemeteries in Wardsville at all. There's none in Wardsville that generally are on the martyrs or any. Yeah. Edie is Edie cemetery?
Edie is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, the Catholic cemetery in Wardsville, I don't believe has been applying either.
No.
No.
But for them, it's a little more complicated because their policy is tied in with a whole lot of other
No.
Catholic cemeteries too. Because I had noticed that Appin Cemetery hadn't been applying for this grant, and I notified them over the last couple of years that they had neglected to do it, but now they have a new secretary treasurer, and she's looking after it.
Yeah, I think.
And I think we should grant this.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of cemeteries that the municipality maintains, and if we help the ones out a bit this way and help them stay so they can maintain their own affairs, it actually saves the municipality money.
No, we have to keep as many viable as we can. Any other questions? And they're subjected to inflation prices too, cutting grass, things like that. I know I got a call last night just to take down a tree at a cemetery. It was substantial thousands of dollars, over $8,000. Yeah, to take down some trees. So they need assistance. Yeah. Okay. Any further questions? Would someone move the recommendation be accepted? Does anyone feel that strongly about it, or has it been? Yep. Councilor McGill, seconder. Councilor McCollum. That Appin Cemetery get the 75% for the 2 years stated in the recommendation. Everyone's had the opportunity to ask questions. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay, Kristen, you're just about home. Request for utility bill consideration. You must have had a water leak, eh?
Yes, sir. We've had a couple of these.
I know we have, yeah.
Couple of meetings, yes. On January 11th, the owner of this property, I think the last one was on Longwoods Road as well, notified the office of a water leak. There was a request for a reading to see what the increase would be due to the leak. So that's fairly common. If they get a large bill, they'll ask for an interim reading kind of to see if it was like a one-time thing or if there's a perpetual problem here. In this case, there was a leak isolated and repaired. They determined that the leak did not enter the water system. So it is recommended that the sewer charges in excess of their typical consumption be reimbursed.
Okay. Council, any questions you wish to ask the treasurer? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion that the recommendation be said. Okay. Yep. Councilor Myers, Councilor Choi. Last call for questions. All in favor? Carried. Kristen, thanks very much for those 3 reports. Operations, Mr. Henry, I don't believe we have any. Notice of motions, Kendra, we do not have any. Correspondence and petitions, we do not have any. Unfinished business, there is none. New business, consent agenda was dealt with. How are we doing for time here? We're doing pretty good. County Council and conference updates. I want to thank Councilor McGill for keeping me company at Roma there. Council, I did not really have a time to put a report together for Roma, but I'll make sure that I get something at the next council meeting to you and kind of give you a window into what it was like. It was busy, I'll tell you. There's no opportunity for rest at a conference, I can assure you. You're up at 5:30 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, and you are still going to classes at 5:30 at night. And you're eating all the free food samples that you can attain, believe me. Yeah, and Mike, it was good to see you there as well. Okay, Council, with your wards, are there any announcements that you'd like to bring us up to date on? Yes, Councilor Vink, please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Allen. I just wanted to announce that I attended the fire board meeting yesterday in Elliston. And I believe Kendra has got the temporary or the preliminary budget. In the budget, I believe they're going to get a delivery of a new fire truck this year. And so we will have to pay our share of the half of the fire truck. I think it's going to be delivered September, October. So that's something we will have to incorporate in our budget.
Okay, all right. Yeah, Kristen, any comment on that at all? Got it, okay. All right, anything else, Council? No dinners coming up? Guess we gotta cook, wash dishes. We are at number 15, closed session at this point in time to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. And we will go into closed at 8:08 as per subsection 2392 of the Municipal Act 2001 to consider the matters I've just reported. Motion to approve and a seconder. I'll entertain that. Councilor Myers, seconder. Councilor McCollum, all in favor? Carried. Councilor Scholdice, I'll pass the gavel to you. Participate in discussion.